You're listening to episode 10 of the Emotional Freedom Podcast. My name is Luke, and in today's episode, I want to talk about 5 lessons that I learned from climbing Mount Kinabalu. 2 years ago, I went to climb Mount Kinabalu with my family members. And I had planned for it. I won't say planned for it. I would say more like I had talked about it for quite a while until finally everyone said, let's do it. And finally, I told myself, okay, I have no other excuses. So it's time to go and do it. Now, up to that point, I thought I have heard a lot of stories about Mount Kinabalu being a very easy mountain to climb. And as a result of that, I think I underestimated the mountain. So, in today's episode, I want to share with you what are the top 5 lessons that I learned from this climb. And these 5 lessons, I believe, can also be applied in our daily life as well. Now, lesson number 1, perhaps the most important one, is preparation is the key. It is so important to be prepared for this climb. Now, Mount Kinabalu is the tallest mountain in Malaysia and also, I believe, in Southeast Asia. Now, so climbing that mountain, it's quite easy because there's really not many those steep areas. It's basically just staircase carved into the soil. So it's just a lot of climbing, a lot of monotonous climbing. And but you still need to be prepared for that, which was something that I didn't get enough of. I thought by going to the gym, lifting weights, etc., that would have been enough, but unfortunately, it was the wrong type of preparation. Instead, climbing up and down the staircase of the office building or in the park would have been a much suitable exercise. So, the key takeaway from this lesson is basically this: even though you may be working hard, preparing yourself for something, it's important to pause and ask yourself this question. You may be working hard, but are you preparing or working hard on the right things? Because if you are working hard on the wrong things, that is as good as not doing anything at all because it is not helping you to accomplish the goal. So that was lesson number 1. Now, lesson number 2, I would say that a lot of people, they have been talking about, hey, let's go and climb Mount Kinabalu. 5 years later, and they still haven't done it yet. So there are a lot of people who will say that they want to do something, but in reality, saying and doing are two totally different things. You don't get to achieve anything except or unless you take action first. So this is a lesson number 2 for me. See, a lot of people, they will say, how I wish I can go and climb Mount Kinabalu. But few years later, they would still be saying, how I wish I can go and climb Mount Kinabalu. And when eventually they got time, they have got holiday, then probably they'll think of another excuse why not to do it. And then they will still tell people how I wish I can do it. So if you happen to be in that situation, then I think it is important for you to sit down by yourself and ask yourself, is this really what you want? Because if it is really what you want, then stop giving yourself any form of excuses. Instead, commit to it. Nobody says it's going to be easy, and nobody says that there is not going to be any pain involved. But if you really want to do something about it, then you need to step out from your comfort zone and start to do it. Now, moving on to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 has got to do with how easy it is for people to take it for granted. Now, Mount Kinabalu is in Kota Kinabalu in Sabah. And when I flew to Sabah, I told the taxi drivers there, I said, they asked me, so where are you going? Are you a tourist? I said, yes, I am. I'm going to climb the mountain. A lot of them were very surprised, in fact, because they told me that, you know what, I was born here, I grew up here, I have never even climbed the mountain yet. And once I reached the foothill of the mountain, I realized that there were a lot of tourists, there were a lot of foreigners, there were a lot of people from all over Malaysia who came. It's just that there are not many local Sabahans there. So it really makes me think that sometimes those of us who are born with certain privileges, it becomes so easy for us to take those privileges for granted. Isn't it true? And as a result of that, we don't really appreciate it and we don't really, make full use of it. And as a result of that, people who have to travel far, people who have to spend money to do it, they would be the ones who really experience it. So, what I would like to talk about here then would be when it comes to things that are going on in our life, I think it becomes very important for us to really slow down and also appreciate the things that are happening around us and not to just take things for granted. Lesson number 4, starting is easy. I remember when I started the climb, when I'm actually physically there, the thing in my head is like, let's just do it. So I started climbing. And as I started climbing, as I started walking, when the fatigue kicks in, when the muscles begins to get sore, the thought of quitting starts to become very real. But if you have climbed halfway up the mountain, are you going to just quit and come halfway down again for nothing? So that was the thought in my head. So I started to tell myself, I'm going to complete it, I'm going to complete it. And by the time I think I reached about the final quarter of the climb, the thought of just giving up and sitting there was so strong. So it really got me thinking. Starting is the easy part. It is completing it that is the most difficult one. And when I talked earlier on point number 1 about preparation, I think one of the most important preparation would be to prepare for that final quarter, to prepare for that last part whereby it is too close to give up, and yet it is too painful not to give up. You know what I'm saying about? So by preparing for that part in advance, I think it will make it easier for us to finish a climb or finish the race or finish whatever it is that you're doing. Personally, I find that that has always been a struggle that I'm doing. Even like, for example, when I wrote my book, writing it, the process of going through completion, that was quite easy. And I find that the temptation to just say, let's stop here, that temptation gets stronger when it becomes closer to the time of where the project would have been completed. So that is something to watch out for. Prepare for that final quarter, the final 25%, where things can get very, very difficult. And finally, lesson number 5, I would say this: nothing ventured, nothing gained. If I didn't go for the climb on Mount Kinabalu, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy the beauty of the mountain or seeing that cloud, that sea of clouds. It's as if when you are at the peak of Mount Kinabalu, when you are looking down, you will see the clouds as if it is like the ocean, and the tip of all the other mountains, the other hills, and all that. It seems like islands jutting out from this sea of clouds. It's such a breathtaking sight. And I can explain it to you, I can describe it to you, I can take pictures for you, but let me tell you this: you won't be able to really experience the beauty unless you are up there yourself looking at it. So, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you really want something in your life, if you really want to experience something, the best thing that you can do is go and make it happen. Take action, go and make it happen. Because when you take the first step, yeah, sure, it might be tough. You may not necessarily get it after all, but what you get is a beautiful and priceless experience. So these are the 5 lessons that I have learned from climbing Mount Kinabalu, and I believe that it is something that can also be used in other areas of my life as well. Hope you have enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you tomorrow.